Larry, thank you for being on the show.
Happy to be here.
I have to say that with the background that you have, I see it a lot in meetings in the company that I work for, but usually it's a virtual background because they want to seem like they're in a government office. And for you, it's not a virtual background, it's an actual background.
Yeah, I actually came to City Hall today. Definitely, I've been sheltering in place the majority of the time. That being said, every now and then I do need to come in and get to the backlog of actual physical mail that I get on a weekly basis.
Of course. So Larry, mayor of Sunnyvale, let's just jump into it. What is it like being mayor?
So it's very interesting. So I was elected to council in 2016, chosen as mayor in January of 2019. And so our council ends up choosing the mayor every 2 years. And so being mayor has been a lot of fun. You realize that you don't have that much power as mayor. You realize that you run the council meetings, you meet with the city manager to set the agendas. But other than that, it's basically like being on council. But your one big power is networking people together. And so especially during the time of COVID-19, networking the right people together is a critical thing in the community. You are counselor in chief. So, we have a police chief who is in charge of public safety. The manager, the city manager who runs the city staff. But the mayor is there to hear, people's issues, people's questions, and, make people feel safe or answer, when they have what's going to happen, making sure that they're feeling, fine in their community.
Sure. So just for whoever doesn't know, and I, for example, don't know, what is it? What is a council in the context of let's say Sunnyvale City Council?
Absolutely. So the majority of the cities in California have a council of 5 to 9 council members. And sometimes, depending on the city, they have a directly elected mayor. And we're actually moving to a directly elected mayor from a Sunnyvale standpoint. But those council members set the policy, set the priorities for a city. And then the majority of the cities, then they have a city manager who reports to council and a city attorney who reports to council. And the city manager implements the directives of council based upon their management experience. And so the council is elected from every city, and it's normally a 4-year term depending upon your city. So some cities have directly elected mayors, some of them, the councils themselves choose what happens. We meet at least twice a month, to have staff reports review what's going on in the city, new study issues, approve the normal bills, all the standard operation of the city.
Do the different council members have different responsibilities or jurisdictions within the city, scope, or are they more like board members where they have voting power on every given issue?
So right now, so two things. Right now, our council is at large. The entire council every council member represents the entire city. We're actually moving to districts in the November 2020 election, so that 6 of the council members, each council member will represent 1/6 of the city, and then we'll have a directly elected mayor who represents the entire city. But each council member gets a vote on all city matters, and so it's 1 of 7. And so even as mayor, you don't have a lot of additional power. You have to build that coalition, which is sometimes an issue because of the Brown Act. But every council member should represent the needs and the questions of the entire city.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And so obviously we're in a fascinating time, and I have the privilege of speaking now to the mayor of a city that has so many great tech and companies that are making incredible strides, both in terms of helping people in the new norms, but also in finding ways to combat this pandemic. So what is it? How is your day-to-day job different now than it was, let's say, 3 months ago?
Sure. So definitely a lot more conference calls, just like this one.
Of course.
But the biggest thing is um, staying up to date on what's happening at the federal, at the state, the county level. We have conference calls from an elected standpoint, private conference calls with county officials like every other day. But then it's the press releases, and often conflicting press releases at the state level with the county level or the federal level. Staying up to date on all that is really important. And then from a council member standpoint, I also have a day job. So if you're in San Jose or San Francisco, it's a full-time job and full-time pay. The majority of the cities around the Bay Area, that's just council member is a part-time job. So a lot of us have day jobs also. So I have, jumping from conference calls as mayor to conference calls as a program manager at my startup is the mix of the day.
Whoa. Hold on, Larry. Wait. You're the program manager at a startup while you're a mayor?
Absolutely. So the majority of council, so we have half of our council members are, working in full-time jobs right now. And because it's what the city pays you is a stipend, it's not a full-time salary. We have one city staff member that helps schedule and manage all the council members, issues and questions and all that. But yeah, and we're one of the better paid, stipend cities. But that being said, it's not a full-time job. It's not a full-time wage.
So tell me just a little bit about what is the startup that you're doing?
Yeah, so I work at a battery charging startup. So I'm a software engineer by training. So I'm a bachelor in computer science. I've moved into director and manager director. I'm currently a program manager at a battery charging software company called Qnovo. And so what we do is make lithium-ion cells, extend the life, make sure that the battery health is very good. And so we're in over 100 million phones between Sony and LG. Wow. And that same cell that's in a cell phone is exactly what's in an EV, an electric vehicle. And so we have a lot of interest from multiple automakers because they're moving into the EV world, and extending the battery life is really critical from an EV standpoint, because when you're talking about a cell phone, every 2 or 3 years, people throw away their cell phone, replace their cell phone. The expectation that from an auto industry standpoint is you'll have that same car 10 years from now. And when you have a pack of 100 cells, it's critical to make sure that life, that you're not going to have to replace, every battery pack every 4 or 5 years from an automotive standpoint, because an EV, 1/3 of the cost of an EV is that battery pack.
No, I think it's just it's incredible how on one hand we can talk for a minute about with the head of a mayor, and then all of a sudden you're a program manager and a director in an engineering startup. I think that's incredible. And so talk to me a little bit about this dissonance. So how do you go about both serving the city, and you have a leadership role, and I'm looking at the Facebook Live that you're doing now weekly with the city, and you're answering questions live for an hour, and I think it's a wonderful endeavor. And you can see that people are looking at you as some sort of comfort figure, and you're a person that's representing this pandemic from the federal and governmental standpoint. Right. So how do you deal with this dissonance?
So, the good thing is I'm program manager, so I get to decide when a lot of the meetings are. It's an international startup, so I have a lot of calls in the morning, with Europe. I have evening calls with Asia. So I'm able to kind of balance that and juggle the different meetings during the day, as far as not trying not to conflict with my council and mayor's job. That being said, there's a lot of phone calls. It is a big task because, being that counselor, there's a lot of, calling people back. And I'll be honest, I don't call back people back immediately. If I answer the call if I can, but there is the expectation, especially during, the time of the pandemic, that people
Sure.
understand to see how they can help. All that's really important.
Definitely, definitely. So, I mean, a little bit about your take on this trajectory, because the way that I approach this conversation is I assumed that when people take the role of a mayor or a city council, because they see it as a stepping stone later on in politics, and to get governor or senator, and eventually get possibly to the White House. Is that how you see it, or is this something that you're just passionate about because you love the city?
So for me, it's just, I never thought I'd be mayor or let alone council member. I was 9 years on the planning commission before deciding to run for council. And I was 6 years on the planning commission that finished in 2010. And at that point, people said, run for city council. And I'm like, I would never want that job. I'm not a politician. Once I got back on planning commission because they needed people, I saw that, having that experience, and the main reason you run for council is because you love your city. Right now, being mayor during these times, you know, comforting people, as much as it can be an extra burden, I feel I'm very well placed and have reached out to a lot of, diverse communities within our city to make sure that they feel safe. I'm
Sure.
I'm I'm delivering face masks to the county shelter. That networking, that loving your city, however you can help out, and that's one of the reasons why you step up to run for city council or mayor. I don't see, moving beyond, to other higher elected
Sure.
positions. For me, it's serving my community, and that's one of the main reasons I ran, was just because I had the right experience, I had the right temperament. Moving to Sunnyvale 30 years ago and getting to know people, running, being on boards and commissions in nonprofits. That's an important thing of understanding the fabric of your community and realizing how you can best help.
Right. So I mean, you have the privilege of looking at this pandemic, and I'm sure that sociologists are gonna have a ball examining hundreds of papers written on these times, and how social norms are differing, and how businesses are changing the way that they're approaching this. I'd love to get your input on, from 30,000 feet up in the air, and obviously you're on the ground level all the time, and you're out there, and you're talking to the individuals, but you're also overseeing the entire city, and you can see sort of the different progressions that are being made throughout this pandemic. What's been some of the things that maybe surprised you, or that didn't surprise you, as this thing rolled out?
Sure. So it's the biggest thing which didn't surprise me is seeing how people are trying to help out however they can. This is kind of, for me, I'm super busy. Hearing people that are like bored at home, I'm like, boy, I wish I had that luxury to a
Yeah.
certain degree. That being said, seeing so many people, neighborhoods joining together to create masks. One of the things I did was help network, people who needed elastic to create face masks. So people that are trying to help out their community however they can, reading, doing video read-alongs for kids online. You see all that, people just wanting to help out, but trying to stay socially distanced is difficult. And then, working with our business community to try to figure out how to help out. So the bigger high-tech companies, making those phone calls to say, can you help our Sunnyvale Community Services? Can you help, conceivably what we're creating a business program to help some of the smaller businesses through this, because Sunnyvale, 95% of our businesses, you think we're the meeting ground for, Facebook and Apple and Google and LinkedIn
Yeah.
and all the big companies. That being said, 95% of our businesses are 25 people or less. So making sure
Wow.
that they are, feeling okay on a daily basis. I'm going out and having lunch at a different restaurant that's still open, talking to the owners,
Yeah.
highlighting for people to go out and, still, shop local, tip these people, because it's hard for restaurants right now to stay afloat because
Totally,
business has dropped
totally.
off so much.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I see on my feed a lot of my friends in Sunnyvale and the cities that are surrounding this idea of, this coffee shop that you love so much that you've been working from for the past 15 years. Well,
Yeah,
this is the time to step up and go and buy their supplies. I remember that somebody posted a picture, I think it was 2, 3 weeks ago, of one of the biggest coffee shops, in Palo Alto. They were selling their toilet paper. They
right.
were basically selling, and just as a way of, you know, and it's just unbelievable what's happening. Do you see the city changing or evolving as a result of this pandemic? So let's talk about the day after.
Right. So, definitely we'll see a lot of businesses close. I think that's throughout the South Bay. We're already seeing some businesses that say, Clark's and Mountain View said closed after 75 years. There were
Wow.
businesses that were barely making it by before this that now are saying, what, we're not going to reopen. That really hits me hard, but
Yeah.
so it's going out, and that's one of the reasons why I'm publicizing the restaurants that are still open and trying to make a go of it
Yeah.
however they can. Definitely, we will see a change. I do think, at least for Sunnyvale, we are very well placed to come out of the recession that's here. That being said, I wish I had a crystal ball to say, this company will make it and this company can't, and who really needs financial assistance right now. I'm
So
happy to
yeah.
see. I'm happy to see a lot of them change. It's like some of them are even selling part of the food that they get from their suppliers. So selling eggs,
Yeah.
selling bread, selling milk, just to trying to make a go of it, as well as provide additional foodstuffs into the community.
Totally. So if there was one thing that you could, that if every person in the city would now hear you, what would be one thing that you would tell them right now?
So from a business standpoint, go out and see the restaurants. Go order at your favorite restaurant. Go find a new restaurant. That's really critical. They're having a hard go of it. A lot of the smaller businesses have already sheltered that if they weren't seen as essential, they've sheltered. One of our bookstores is actually doing home deliveries now, which had never done before, trying to pivot to make sure that they can still provide
Yeah.
some services into the community. But and from a message to people, make sure that they feel safe. Make sure that you're healthy, that you're mentally, both physically and mentally healthy. Getting out of the house and walking around the block, staying socially distanced from people, but making sure that you don't feel completely cooped up is
Yeah.
critical. Because and what people have done as far as social distancing has made a difference, and we're finally seeing the numbers
Oh
flatten
yeah.
as far as the number of cases in the community. But that being said, it's difficult for everyone, but we will get through this.
Definitely, definitely. So Larry, we have to stop shortly. Thank you again for taking the time to do this. I have to ask you one more thing, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. What are 3 words that you would best describe yourself as, or that you think other people would describe you as?
Sure. Let me. I would say compassionate. You
Okay.
know, um, inclusive. My outreach into the community has been, a lot of the people, have really appreciated that. Whether or not it's and Sunnyvale is very diverse.
Sure.
50% of the people weren't even born in the U.S. 50% of the people in
50% of Sunnyvale, really?
50% of Sunnyvale, are from Europe, are from Asia, from around the world, Canada,
Wow.
Mexico, all over. And so 50% more than 50% weren't even born in the US. And so, making sure that they feel inclusive, and things always are happening. It's like at the federal level, especially reaching out to those churches, to those different,
Sure.
groups, going to a Nepali New Year. So next week is Nepali New Year. Um, they're not having their festival. I was the first council member to come to one of their events they've been having in our city for 15 years. So making sure
Wow.
that the entire community feels good, reaching out to the Iranian church when our president kind of pointed fingers at Iran, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, making
Right.
sure that they feel, that they're part of our community, and that the
Sure.
mayor's ready to listen to whatever their issues or concern are
Definitely.
is really important. And then, So definitely, compassionate, feeling out, feeling how I can help out in the community, inclusive, and I would say, just generally, making, what would be the last word? I would say um, positive, trying to keep a positive feel
I
for
love it.
everyone. I love being part of our city,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I've always tried to do is make sure that everyone feels that they've been heard, and you might not be happy about what I say, but I meet with, have weekly office hours, and now they moved to virtual office hours.
Yes.
But keeping that positive outlook that we will get through this, and we can deal with every issue. It's like being an even keeled, leader, making sure that everyone feels fine, feels safe, you know, keeping that positive outlook of whatever happens, we will get through it.
I love it. Larry, thank you so much for taking the time. This is fantastic.
I'm happy to do it. It's always good to talk to people and talk about, the good our city is doing, and whatever change I can do, making sure that people are feeling good about Sunnyvale and about the Bay Area.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.